in the world of AI right now, I'm curious to know if and how you are using it in your program currently, and if there are gaps or opportunities you think that AI can really fill.
So I just started using some AI to assist with writing out test results. So when I share out my test results, they're usually long form, with basically a paragraph that goes through all the metrics and how they perform, if they were significant or not, were they directional, um, you know, did we see any harm to specific metrics that we, basically think of as like do no harm metrics. So all that kind of stuff. It's like a paragraph that gets written. So I'm using AI basically to feed it the results out of a table form, and then the AI scrapes the table and writes out the results for me. So it's like a time saving measure. Um, Although I'm not using AI to call test results, I don't feel like, I feel like that's kind of like a slippery slope where you could just start feeding AI a bunch of test results and it could just tell you what's, did the control win, did the variant win? Does it recommend you to take another step? So I feel like there's ways you can use AI to automate your workflow to get more test out and to help with that flywheel. But as far as like using AI to, take the place of a human to call a test, I just don't feel like we're there yet. And once again, I feel like there's so many points that you have to take when calling a test that you have to know that quantitative and qualitative background data that goes into the test. And a lot of times the AI just isn't going to know all that information. It's just basically going to know whatever you feed it. I'm also using it to with copy to basically rewrite hypotheses. So I have a really specific format for hypotheses that says basically if we introduce this change, then we will see an X lift or increase in a specific metric because of X, Y, and Z. And many times the stakeholders I work with will not, fully bake out that hypothesis statement. So what I do is I take it, put it into our model, and it spits out the hypothesis in the correct format. And that way, when I share it out, it's following the same format that I use for all my tests.
Now, there's something interesting there about like the potential use of AI in documentation and in your catalog to potentially be able to, even summarize your repository for you in places, or to scrape it for you and pull
Yeah,
information.
absolutely. Yeah, having an AI attached to your repository so you could just type in a query, like what is the most popular type of test we've ran this year, or what is you know, the trends we're seeing across these type of pages on the website. Just those quick queries that would take you minutes to search for would just be easy to bring up with AI.
I was seeing some stuff online about people who are using AI and generative AI chatbots in general to sort of act as a sounding board when they are strategizing, when they're planning, when they're coming up with ideas. It's kind of like what you were describing about like distilling hypotheses down to something that's more templatized. Like I'm seeing that there's a trend of people beginning to use it creatively as well. Um, do you see a space for that in your process, and like what are the potential dangers inherent to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what I mentioned earlier, that product from Adobe, it produces some really great image and assets for advertisers to spin up on the fly. I mean, I think the downside of that is obviously the creators, those who spent years honing their talents with, perfecting themselves at Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, and, sketching and drawing vectorized images. So I think there is, a fine line to walk with some of that. Now, in our space is a little different. We're just trying to fine tune or hone in on really good hypotheses, and maybe using the AI, like you said, to understand kind of opportunities on the website. Feed it a bunch of data. Here's how folks are performing on certain pages, and the average bounce rate is XYZ, and on this page is higher. How can we create a hypothesis to fix that? So it's a little bit different compared to, like I said, the creatives who are actually creating images and content. But I do think there's opportunity to hone in further with AI, with testing. It's just a matter of training the models and having them become more proficient in your specific website with your specific data set. and finding a way to feed
Yeah.
it into the AI.
This is Romo Santiago from